The stars were quiet that night. Admiral sat in his command chair aboard the UEN Iron Wake, watching the endless darkness through the main viewport. His fleet of 12 ships moved through space like wolves on a hunt, but there was nothing to hunt tonight, just empty space and routine patrol. Was a man of 50 years. His hair was gray at the temples and his face carried the scars of battles fought long ago. He had served in the United Earth Navy for 30 years. He had seen wars between human nations before unity came. He had seen the first contact with alien species. He had seen things that would break weaker men, but tonight was peaceful, and peace made him restless. "Admiral," said the communications officer, a young woman named. Her voice was strange, not afraid but confused. "We are picking up something unusual." Turned his chair toward her station. "What kind of unusual?" "A signal, sir. It is broadcasting on the universal emergency frequency. But the language," she pressed her headset closer to her ear, "the translator is having trouble with it." "Put it on speaker." The bridge fell silent as static filled the air. Then through the noise, a voice came through. It was thin and desperate. It trembled with fear that needed no translation. "They are consuming us. We cannot fight. We have no weapons. Anyone who can hear, please, please help us." The message repeated, the same words, the same terror, over and over again. Stood from his chair, his eyes were hard. "Where is this coming from?" Checked her instruments. "Sector 447, sir. That is uncharted territory. We have no information about that region." "How far?" 6 hours at maximum speed." Captain stepped forward from her position near the tactical display. She was younger than, perhaps 35, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She commanded the assault frigate Black Crane, the fastest ship in the fleet. "Admiral," she said carefully, "we have no orders to enter uncharted space. Earth Command will want us to report this and wait for instructions." Looked at her. "Someone is dying out there, Captain. We do not know who they are. We do not know what is attacking them. This could be a trap." "It could be," nodded slowly. "And if it is, we will deal with it. But I will not sit here and do nothing while someone screams for help into the void." Studied his face for a long moment. Then she smiled just slightly. "I had to say it, sir, for the record." "And now it is on the record." Turned to the helm. "Set course for Sector 447, maximum speed, all ships." The fleet moved as one. 12 warships turned toward the unknown, engines burning bright against the darkness. In the medical bay, Lieutenant Minu prepared his team. He was the chief medical officer, a calm man with gentle hands and steady nerves. He had treated soldiers with terrible wounds, aliens with strange biologies, and everything in between. Now he gathered supplies for whatever they might find. "We do not know what species sent the signal," he told his staff. "Prepare for anything. Universal blood substitutes, regeneration packs, trauma kits. If they are organic, we can help them." One of the nurses looked nervous. "What if they are not organic?" Minu smiled softly. "Then we will figure something out. We always do." In the armory, Sergeant checked her weapons. She was small for a Marine, but no one who had seen her fight would ever call her weak. Her squad respected her because she led from the front. She never asked them to do anything she would not do herself. "Listen up," she said to her soldiers. "We are going into unknown territory to answer a distress call. That means we might be walking into a fight. Check your gear, check your weapons, check each other." A young Marine named raised his hand. "Sergeant, do we know what we are fighting?" "No." "Do we know how many?" "No." Swallowed hard. "Do we know anything?" Looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death. "We know someone needs help. That is enough." Down in the engine room, engineer ran final checks on the reactor. He was a thin man with oil-stained hands and a mind that never stopped working. People said he could fix anything with nothing. He did not disagree. Push the engines to 110%, he told his team. We need every bit of speed. That is above safe limits, one technician warned. Grinned, safe is for peacetime, we have work to do. The hours passed slowly, remained on the bridge watching the stars streak by. He thought about the voice in the signal, the fear in it, the desperation. Long ago, when humanity first reached the stars, they had sent their own signals into the darkness, pleas for contact, hopes that they were not alone. No one had answered. Remembered the loneliness of those early years, the silence that seemed to stretch forever. He remembered how it felt to cry out and hear nothing in return. He would not let another species feel that silence, not while he had ships and soldiers and the will to fight. Dropping out of FTL in 30 seconds, announced the helm officer. Straightened in his chair. All hands to battle stations. We do not know what we are walking into, but we walk in ready. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel and saw hell. Before them floated a massive alien ship. It was beautiful in a way that human ships never were. Crystal and light and elegant curves. A work of art more than a machine. But it was dying. Thousands of small creatures swarmed over its surface, tearing into its hull like insects devouring a corpse. Explosions bloomed along its length. Escape pods launched and were immediately destroyed. "My God," whispered Captain. His voice was cold iron. "All ships open fire, kill everything that is not that big ship." The human fleet answered with thunder. The human weapons lit up the darkness like angry stars. Missiles flew from launch tubes. Energy cannons spat fire across the void. The small creatures that swarmed the alien ship exploded by the hundreds, then by the thousands. Admiral watched the battle from his command chair with cold eyes. He had seen war before. He knew its terrible beauty. But he felt no joy in this. Only the grim satisfaction of doing what needed to be done. "Captain," he said into the fleet comm, "take your ship and dock with the alien vessel. Get our people inside. Find survivors." His voice came back sharp and clear. "Understood, Admiral. Black Crane is moving now." The assault frigate broke from formation and raced toward the dying crystal ship. The swarm creatures tried to stop it. They threw themselves at the Black Crane's hull, clawing and biting. The ship's point defense guns turned them to ash. Inside the Black Crane, Sergeant gathered her Marines in the airlock. They wore full combat armor, heavy and black, with sealed helmets and oxygen tanks. Each soldier carried enough weapons to fight a small war. "Remember," said, "we do not know what these aliens look like. We do not know their customs. We do not know if they will be happy to see us or terrified. So keep your weapons ready, but do not shoot anything that is not trying to kill us." The Marines nodded. They trusted her. Lieutenant Minu stood with the medical team behind the Marines. He carried a kit full of supplies and a calm expression. Whatever horror waited on the other side of that airlock, he would face it with steady hands. The Black Crane connected to the alien ship with a heavy clang. The airlock cycled. The doors opened. The humans stepped into a world of crystal and light. The corridors were tall and wide, made of some material that glowed softly from within. Everything was curved and gentle. There were no sharp edges anywhere. It was the most beautiful place had ever seen. It was also covered in blood. Bodies lay in the corridors. The aliens were thin and delicate, with large eyes and skin that shimmered like pearls. They had been torn apart by the swarm creatures, had seen death before, but this was different. These people had not fought back. They had simply died. "Move forward," she ordered quietly. "Find the living." They found them in a large chamber near the center of the ship. Perhaps 200 aliens huddled together, surrounded by a few guards who held devices that might have been weapons. When the humans entered, every alien in the room screamed. Stopped, she raised her empty hand slowly. "We are here to help." The translator in her helmet converted her words into the alien language. But the aliens did not calm down. They pushed back against the walls, their large eyes wide with terror. One alien stepped forward. He was taller than the others and wore robes that marked him as someone important. His whole body trembled, but he forced himself to speak. "I am Ambassador," he said through the translation. "We thank you for coming, but please, please do not hurt us." Blinked behind her helmet. "Hurt you, we came to save you." Stared at her armor, at her weapons, at the way she stood. "You are predators. We can see it in how you move, in how you watch us. You are hunters." Lieutenant Minyu stepped forward and removed his helmet. The aliens gasped in horror. Minyu's face was kind and gentle, but his eyes faced forward like all human eyes, the eyes of a predator. His smile showed teeth that included small fangs. "I am a doctor," Minyu said softly. "I want to help your wounded. May I?" Stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. Minyu moved to the injured aliens with his team. He worked quickly and carefully, treating wounds that would have killed a human 10 times over. The aliens were fragile in ways he had never seen. Their bones were thin. Their blood was pale blue. A wound that a human would shrug off was fatal to them. As he worked, watched in fascination. "Your blood," the ambassador said. "It is red like rust." "It contains iron," Minyu explained. "It carries oxygen through our bodies." "Iron, the metal?" "Yes." Looked like he might faint. "You have metal in your blood. You are made of metal and meat." Minyu smiled gently. "I suppose we are." A young alien approached Sergeant. He was smaller than the others, with curious eyes despite his fear. His name, she would learn, was Navigator. "You killed so many of them," said, meaning the swarm creatures. "You killed them without hesitation." "They were hurting you," said simply. "But were you not afraid?" Considered the question. Fear is normal. Fear keeps you alive. But we do not let fear stop us from doing what needs to be done. Shook his head slowly. "We could not fight them. We tried, but we are not built for violence. We have never needed to be. Our world was peaceful. No predators, no war, no death except from old age." "That sounds nice," said. "It was nice until they came." His voice broke. "They came from the dark between stars. They consumed our world, billions of us, eaten, and we could do nothing." Captain entered the chamber, her helmet under her arm. Ambassador turned to her with the same fearful respect. "What are you?" he asked. "What kind of species creates beings like you?" Thought about how to answer. She thought about Earth, with its volcanoes and earthquakes, its storms and plagues, its millions of years of evolution through violence and struggle. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every day of our existence," she said. "We call it home." Shuddered. "A death world, you are." "If that is what you want to call us, then yes." Before anyone could say more, the ship shook violently. Alarms began to sound in the strange, musical language of the aliens. His face went pale. "No, no, no, no." "What is it?" demanded. "The mothership, their mothership is coming." His voice was barely a whisper. "It is the size of a moon. It carries billions of them. We have been running from it for weeks." Captain's expression did not change. She simply touched her communicator. "Admiral, we have a problem." The response came immediately. "I see it, Captain. Get those survivors to our ships. We have work to do." Through the crystal walls of the dying ship, they could see it emerging from space itself. A sphere of darkness and horror. The mothership had arrived. And humanity was going to fight it. The survivors were moved to the human ships within the hour. The crystal vessel was too damaged to save. Captain ordered it left behind as the fleet pulled back to assess the situation. Admiral stood in the war room of the Iron Wake, surrounded by holographic displays showing the mothership. It was massive beyond words, a sphere of organic metal that blocked out the stars behind it. Smaller ships poured from its surface like insects from a hive. Ambassador stood with the other leaders. They looked at the displays with eyes full of despair. "How many of them are there?" asked. Billions, said Elder, the oldest of the. Her voice was thin with age and sorrow. Perhaps trillions. They have consumed hundreds of worlds. Each world makes them stronger. Each species they eat becomes part of them. What do they want? They want to consume. That is all they want. That is all they are. Nodded slowly. He had fought enemies like this before. Not on this scale, but the principle was the same. Some enemies could not be reasoned with. They could only be destroyed. How many of your people died? He asked quietly. Closed his eyes. 12 billion, our entire, everyone we ever knew or loved. The war room was silent. 12 billion lives. It was a number too large to truly understand. Thought of Earth with its 8 billion humans. He thought of his own family back home. We will stop them, he said. Stared at him. You cannot. You are 12 ships against a mothership that has destroyed entire civilizations. We are 12 human ships. His voice was iron. That is different. He turned to engineer. How long to prepare the fleet for extended combat? Scratched his chin. If you want everything perfect, 12 hours. You have 6. Then I will make it work. The humans scattered to their tasks. They watched in confusion as these strange predators prepared for a battle they could not possibly win. Navigator followed Sergeant through the corridors, watching everything. Why do you eat other creatures? He asked suddenly. Glanced at him. Because we must. Our bodies need protein. We evolved to hunt and eat meat. Shuddered. On our world there were no hunters, no prey. Everything lived in harmony. That sounds peaceful. It was quiet for a moment. Is it true that your world has places where the ground shakes and splits open? Earthquakes, yes. And mountains that spit fire. Volcanoes. And great storms that destroy everything in their path. Hurricanes, typhoons, tornadoes, we have many kinds. Stopped walking, his eyes were wide. How did your species survive? Smiled, but it was not a happy smile. We adapted, we learned, we fought. Our world tried to kill us every single day, and every single day we refused to die. She led him to a viewing area where others had gathered. They were watching human soldiers train. The Marines ran, climbed, fought each other with padded weapons. They pushed their bodies until they collapsed, then stood up and did it again. What are they doing? Asked. Preparing. But they are hurting themselves. They are making themselves stronger. Human muscles grow when they are damaged and healed. We break ourselves down so we can build ourselves back up. Watched a Marine take a hard hit and fall. The Marine laughed, stood up, and attacked again. That is insane. That is survival. In the medical bay, Lieutenant Minyu was treating an elder who had been wounded during the attack. The elder watched Minyu work with fascination and fear. Your hands are so steady, the elder said. Thank you. Even when you look at our blood, our wounds, you do not react. Do humans feel nothing? Minyu paused. He thought about all the death he had seen, all the bodies he had tried and failed to save, the nightmares that sometimes came at night. We feel everything, he said softly, but we learn to keep working anyway. If we stopped every time something hurt us, we would never accomplish anything. The elder was quiet for a long time. You are terrifying creatures. I know. But you came when we called. Minyu smiled gently. That is what we do. On the bridge, Admiral received a message from Earth Command. They wanted him to retreat. They wanted him to bring the refugees to human space and let them have this sector. Read the message twice, then he deleted it. Captain stood beside him. That was an order, Admiral. I must have missed it. Communication problems, very common in uncharted space. Almost smiled. Very common indeed. The fleet finished its preparations in 5 hours, was proud. The weapons were loaded, the shields were charged, and every ship was ready for battle. Stood on the bridge and opened a channel to all ships. His voice was calm and clear. Soldiers of Earth, you know what waits for us out there? A swarm that has killed billions, a mothership the size of a moon. By all logic, we should run. By all reason, we should hide. He paused. The fleet listened in silence. But we are not creatures of logic alone. We are human. We came from a world that should have killed us 1,000 times over. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived each other. And now, these creatures think they can consume the galaxy without consequence. His voice grew harder. We did not come here to run. We came here to fight. So let us show them what happens when they threaten a species. Let us show them what humanity is made of. The fleet roared its answer across every channel. Cheers and battle cries in a dozen languages. The sound of a species that had never learned how to give up. Navigator stood with the refugees, listening to the human response. He did not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. These crazy predators were going to fight a moon-sized monster with 12 ships. And somehow, impossibly, they believed they could win. The battle began with fire. Admiral ordered the fleet to attack. 12 human ships against a mothership the size of a moon. It should have been suicide. It should have been over in seconds. But humans were never good at dying when they were supposed to. The Iron Wake led the charge, its main cannons blazing. Energy beams cut through the swarm ships like knives through paper. Missiles exploded in chains of fire that turned the darkness bright. All ships spread formation, commanded. Do not give them a single target, make them chase us. The human fleet scattered like wolves around prey. Each ship moved independently, attacking from different angles, drawing the swarm's attention in a dozen directions. They could not focus their numbers. The humans were everywhere at once. Captain pushed the Black Crane to its limits. Her ship dove into the thickest part of the swarm, guns firing constantly. Swarm creatures exploded against her shields. Larger ships tried to ram her. She dodged them with impossible grace. "Captain," her pilot said, "we are taking heavy damage." "Good, that means they are paying attention to us instead of the others. Keep going." "We might not survive." Grinned, "Then we will die doing something that matters. I can live with that." The pilot laughed despite everything. "You mean you can die with that?" "Same thing." Aboard the Iron Wake, a terrible sound echoed through the corridors. Metal tearing, alarms screaming. The ship shook violently. "Hull breach on Deck 7, reported an officer. "Boarding party, approximately 50 hostiles." Stood from his chair. He walked to a weapons locker on the bridge and pulled out a rifle. The crew stared at him. "Admiral, you should stay here." "They are on my ship," checked his weapon. "That is personal." He led a group of bridge officers to Deck 7. The creatures were horrible to look at. They were part machine and part organic, with too many limbs and mouths filled with metal teeth. They moved like nightmares, fast and wrong. Raised his rifle and fired. The battle in the corridors was brutal and close. Humans fought the creatures hand to hand when their weapons ran dry. They used fists and boots and anything they could grab. A young officer killed a creature with a fire extinguisher. Another beat one to death with a broken piece of pipe. The refugees hid in a protected section, listening to the sounds of combat. Ambassador covered his ears. He had never heard such violence, such rage, such determination. "They are dying for us," he whispered. Elder nodded slowly. "They are fighting for us. There is a difference." The battle on Deck 7 ended. Stood among the dead creatures, breathing hard. His uniform was torn. Blue and red blood mixed on his hands. He looked at his surviving crew. "Back to the bridge. We still have work to do." Outside, the real assault began. Engineer had created something special. A bomb big enough to crack a moon. He called it his masterpiece. "The only problem," he had explained earlier, "is that someone has to deliver it to the core of the mothership, and then they have to get out before it explodes." Sergeant had volunteered immediately. Now she led her Marines through the inside of the mothership itself. They had breached the surface and fought their way in. The interior was alive, organic, pulsing like the inside of some great beast. Walls that breathed, floors that moved, the smell of rot and metal. "Keep moving," ordered. "Do not look at the walls, do not think about where we are, just keep moving." Navigator was with them. He had insisted on coming. He said he needed to see this. He needed to understand. Now he wished he had stayed behind. The walls were covered with memories, faces of species that had consumed. Their knowledge, their culture, their fear, all absorbed into this living nightmare. Saw faces among them, his people, his family perhaps. He fell to his knees and vomited. Grabbed him and pulled him up. "Not now, you can fall apart later. Right now we move." "How are you not afraid?" "I am terrified." Her eyes never stopped scanning for threats. "But fear is just another feeling. I do not let feelings tell me what to do." They reached the core. The bomb was heavy, but the Marines carried it together. They set it carefully in the center of the pulsing chamber. "Timer set for 10 minutes, said over the radio. "Get out now, do not stop for anything." The retreat was worse than the advance. The mothership knew they were there now. Creatures poured from the walls. Marines fell. Grabbed one wounded soldier and threw him over her shoulder. She ran with 50 pounds of dying man on her back while firing her weapon with her free hand. "Go, go, go," she screamed. They burst out of the mothership and into their boarding craft. The pilot was already firing the engines. Behind them, the great sphere began to glow. "Everybody hold on." The bomb exploded. Light filled the universe. The mothership cracked apart like an egg, fire pouring from the wounds. A chain reaction spread through its massive body. Smaller explosions became bigger explosions. The creature that had consumed billions of lives was dying. On the iron wake, they watched through the viewports. They could not believe what they were seeing. They did it, breathed. They actually did it. The swarm went mad. Without the mothership to guide them, the creatures lost their coordination. They flew in random patterns, crashing into each other, into debris, into space itself. The human fleet hunted them down without mercy. Captain's voice came over the radio. "Admiral, the enemy is broken. They are running." Nodded slowly. His body ached. His ship was battered. He had lost good people today. But they had won. "Pursue and destroy," he ordered. "Leave nothing alive. This ends today." The humans obeyed. By the time the stars were quiet again, not a single creature remained. Lieutenant Minu treated the wounded through the night. He saved every life he could and mourned every life he could not. Sergeant sat in the medical bay, getting her own injuries treated, too tired to move. Navigator sat beside her. He had not spoken since they escaped the mothership. "Thank you," he finally said, "for pulling me up, for making me keep moving." Nodded. "That is what we do." "You saved everyone." "We saved you today, tomorrow, who knows?" She closed her eyes. "That is the thing about being human. We just keep going until we cannot anymore, and then we rest and we go again." Looked at her. This small, fierce creature who had carried a dying man through a living nightmare while fighting monsters. "You are all insane," he said. Smiled without opening her eyes. "Thank you." 3 days passed. The human fleet drifted in the quiet darkness, repairing damage and caring for the wounded. The survivors gathered in the largest cargo bay of the Iron Wake, which the humans had converted into temporary living space with beds, food, and privacy screens. Ambassador stood alone near a viewport watching the stars. His world was gone. His people were scattered. Everything he had known was ash and memory. Admiral found him there. Ambassador said quietly, "May I speak with you?" Turned, he still felt fear when he looked at the human, those predator eyes, those killing hands, but now the fear was mixed with something else, something like wonder. "Of course, Admiral." stood beside him, looking at the same stars. I wanted to discuss what happens next. We have been wondering about that. His voice was tired. We have no home, no ships, no resources. We are refugees with nothing to offer. You are wrong. Looked at him in confusion. You have survived, said. That has value. You have knowledge, culture, history, that has value. And you have hope. That has the most value of all. What are you saying? Turned to face him fully. His expression was serious but not unkind. I am offering your people sanctuary. Earth has room. We have resources. You can live with us until you are ready to stand on your own again. Stared at him. Why would you do this? You barely know us. You lost soldiers to save us. Why would you take us in? Because it is the right thing to do. That is not an answer. Was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke again, more softly. Long ago, when humanity first looked at the stars, we were afraid. We were alone. We sent messages into the darkness, hoping someone would answer. No one did. For centuries, we cried out and heard only silence in return. He placed his hand on the viewport. I remember that loneliness. I remember the fear. And I decided long ago that no one else should feel that way, not while I can do something about it. Felt tears forming in his large eyes. You are predators. You are from a death world. Everything about you is designed for violence. Yes. But you choose to help. Yes. Why? Smiled slightly. It was the first time I'd seen him smile. Because that is also what humans are. We are violent, yes, but we are more than that. We choose what we become. We choose who we help. We choose what kind of universe we want to live in. In the cargo bay, they gathered for a ceremony. They mourned their dead. 12 billion names could not be spoken, but they spoke as many as they could. They wept and held each other and tried to understand how they could go on. The humans stood at the edges of the room, respectful and quiet. Sergeant had cleaned her armor and stood at attention. Lieutenant Minu bowed his head. Captain watched with sad eyes. When the ceremony ended, Elder approached the humans. She was old and frail, but her eyes were sharp. We have seen many species in our travels, she said. Many civilizations. Most who have power use it for themselves. They take what they want and destroy what they fear. She looked at each human in turn. But you are different. You were born in violence. You were shaped by death. Everything about you is terrifying. And yet, you use your terrible gifts to protect strangers. She reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were thin and cool against his warm skin. We have a word for creatures like you. Creatures who are monsters but choose to be guardians. We call them shadow saints. Captain laughed softly. I like that, shadow saints. Guardian nightmares, suggested Sergeant. Sounds better. The tension broke. Some of the almost smiled. Navigator stepped forward. He had been thinking for 3 days, processing everything he had seen. Now he knew what he wanted to do. I would like to stay with the humans, he said. I want to learn from them. I want to understand how they became what they are. Looked surprised. That is a big decision. I know, but they answered our call. They came when no one else would. I want to know why. I want to know how fear and kindness can exist in the same heart. Put her hand on his shoulder. You are welcome to stay, but I warn you, human life is strange. We eat meat and exercise until we hurt and fight each other for fun. You might find it uncomfortable. Looked up at her. I survived a living nightmare with you. I think I can handle uncomfortable. The fleet began its journey to Earth. The watch through the viewports as human space approached, planets full of life, stations full of activity, ships of every size and shape. Spent his days learning. He studied human history, which was filled with war and suffering. He studied human biology, which was terrifying in its durability. He studied human art, which was beautiful in ways he never expected. He learned that humans wrote songs about love and loss. They made paintings of flowers and sunsets. They told stories about heroes who sacrificed everything for strangers. They were not just predators. They were poets and dreamers and lovers and fighters all at once. On the final day of the journey, recorded a message. Ambassador helped him broadcast it across communication channels, out into the galaxy, to any species that might hear. "This is Navigator of the Remnant," he began. "I am recording this message so that others might know what we have learned." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "We were dying, our world was consumed, our people were slaughtered. We sent a signal into the darkness expecting nothing. We had given up hope." His voice grew stronger. "The humans answered. They came from their death world with ships of iron and hearts of fire. They fought monsters for us. They bled for us. They died for us. And when the battle was won, they opened their home and called us family." He looked at the humans gathered around him, and Minu and End. They smiled and nodded. "If you are lost in the darkness, if you are afraid, if all hope seems gone, send a signal. Call out into the void. The will answer." He smiled, something he had learned from the humans. "And whatever nightmares chase you, they should be afraid, because humanity is coming, and they do not abandon those who need them." The message ended. It spread across the stars, carried by relay stations and passing ships. It reached worlds that had never heard of humans. It gave hope to species that had forgotten what hope felt like. On Earth, they found new homes. They built communities under the same sun that had forged humanity. Slowly, carefully, they began to heal. And in the quiet moments, when the stars were bright and the future seemed possible, Navigator would tell stories. He told children about the humans who came from hell to fight for heaven, about the shadow saints who chose to be guardians, about the simple truth he had learned, that the universe was dark and dangerous and full of monsters. But sometimes, just sometimes, the monsters were on your side.